Hey guys, Conejo here, back again with another nuclear video, and for today's gun of choice will be the BRM LMG. And before we begin today's video, I would like to go over my class setup real quick. And what I used on the BRM is basically stock, rapid fire, and elo sight for the attachments. And I use the same perks as usual on it. I use Flak jacket, Scavenger, fast hands, and tactical mask. Like usual, I will be leaving my class setup in the description below if you guys want to give it a try. You know, just let me know how that goes, or if you like the class setup. But that's mostly what I use on the BRM, and I find the BRM to be like a really efficient weapon, especially with those attachments. I mean, it just fucking melts people like all LMGs do. I mean, I fucking love LMGs in this game. Anyways, for today's video, I wanted to talk about Infinite Warfare's combat rigs, and I've been kind of interested in them for a while now. And for those of you who don't know what combat rigs are, they are basically a variation on the whole specialist concept in Black Ops 3. And I find these combat rigs to be very unique because they're going to be catering different playstyles for different players. Most importantly though, if there's anything different about Infinite Warfare than all the other Call of Duties, it would be combat rigs in my opinion. According to Infinity Ward, Infinite Warfare will have 6 combat rigs available to players at launch, and you will be able to swap them on the fly in mid-match. However, you can't customize these combat rigs within the match. Another cool thing Infinity Ward did is they basically added traits and payloads to combat rigs is basically their super ability. Traits on the other hand are for passive players or defensive minded players. They will be giving players like slight boosts like faster movement after a kill, or the option to resupply equipment by picking up scavenger bags. However, I really do hope that they do find the proper way to balance payloads and traits unlike Black Ops 3. I mean, Black Ops 3 has like a lot of annoying specialists to get killed by. An example of this would be hives. I mean, come on, it like promotes camping literally. You place them in like designated points, you can sit in a spot and people would just like walk by them and die to them. I mean, I fucking cringe when I die to fucking hives, man. Especially when they're like well placed in the corner where no one will ever notice, and you just walk through that area and you just randomly die. That's like really aggravating. And do you guys all remember the pre-patch scythe? Like the scythe from like when the game came out? That thing had almost like 300 rounds in it, and you can like spray down an entire team 5 times over. Like that shit was like hella OP. Hopefully that isn't an issue when Infinite Warfare comes out and it's all balanced out. However, I do have information on all the 6 combat rigs that are coming out when the game launches, and to be honest, they don't seem that bad. I mean, some of them are a bit iffy or sketchy on the low, and don't seem to be like too overpowered. I mean, we won't really know until like we kind of play the game or play a beta. One of the combat rigs we will be getting in Infinite Warfare is the Warfighter, and basically the Warfighter is a mobile mid-range combat rig. Not gonna lie though, the Warfighter does seem to be like catering to like offensive, defensive, and objective focused players. He's pretty much like good all round. And the payloads that the Warfighter will offer is known as the Claw. And basically what the Claw is a rapid fire spread shot weapon with ricochet ballistic rounds. It sounds kind of OP and sketchy. And it's pretty much designed to take out the enemy in front of you and around blind corners. So, I mean, that kind of sounds sketchy in its name right there in description, but you know, I'm not really too worried about it. It doesn't sound too bad. It doesn't sound like hives, so that's all good. And another payload ability the Warfighter will offer is combat focus, and it works the same way in Black Ops 3. You basically gain double streak points for a limited time. And of course we will be getting overdrive, which will be in like the Warfighter as well, which grants you a temporary speed boost. And the traits the Warfighter will offer is basically kills and assists will send out sonar from that enemy's death location and highlight any additional enemies nearby. I mean, that kind of sounds pretty sketchy in my opinion. Another trait that will be included with the Warfighter combat rig is persistence, and basically what persistence does, it enables you to keep your score streaks after death. They won't reset. However, they will cost more to obtain after you die. And you can only earn 1 of each score streak per match, so that sounds pretty okay. It sounds balanced. And the last trait included in the Warfighter rig is resupply, and what resupply does, it basically allows you to resupply tactical and lethals from scavenger bag. This trait doesn't sound too bad, but you never know. Like people could probably use this to like nade spam in Infinite Warfare, and let's all hope that it doesn't work like that. Let's all hope we can't just nade spam with that class. Another combat rig that'll be available at Infinite Warfare's launch is the Merc, and the Merc is basically built for defensive-minded players who want to do a maximum amount of damage while wearing a shit ton of armor. And I find that to be kind of like a bad thing. It just reminds me of a Juggernaut from MW3, and I just think of it as something really OP. However, the payloads that'll be available for the Merc combat rig is the Steel Dragon, and the Steel Dragon is a heavy beam weapon that can track multiple targets, which sounds pretty OP. And another payload trait that's going to have is the Bow Charge, and it pretty much enables you to pull out a riot shield, charge an opponent, and killing them in any way you want. And the last payload that will be available for the Merc is Reactive Armor, which sounds really fucking overpowered. It basically protects the player from small arms fire for a limited time. And the traits that will be available for the Merc class is the Man at Arms, and the player can pretty much carry a maximum amount of ammo and heavier weapons without the movement penalty. Another trait that will be available for this class is Infusion. It basically allows the player to regenerate health faster after taking damage, which sounds like Juggernaut, like the Juggernaut perk from COD 4. And let's hope it just doesn't work like that. Like, this one sounds like really OP. And the last trait that will be available for this combat rig is known as Shockwave. And basically, Shockwave, you can think of it like gravity spikes. You basically jump in midair, slam it to the ground, and kill people. Pretty much the same thing as a gravity spike. The third rig that will be available in Infinite Warfare's launch pretty much caters to someone like me. It's called FTL, basically that stands for faster than light. And this combat rig is pretty much going to favor people who love running and gunning and love to get into combat as quickly as possible, and also enabling players to get out of combat as quickly as possible, which is good. I like that. And the payloads available to FTL combat rig is the Eraser, and basically what an Eraser is an energy handgun that turns enemies into dust, which sounds pretty fucking dope. The second payload is the FTL jump, faster than light jump, and it basically enables the player to teleport a short distance in the direction they are moving. Sounds like Glitch from Black Ops 3. And the third payload is Phase Shift, and FTL basically enters another dimension where it cannot take damage unless another player is in the same dimension. So this sounds really interesting, and I don't know how that's gonna work. Are we gonna be fighting each other in like the same dimension or what? Because that sounds kinda sketchy. And one of the three traits available to the faster than light combat rig is basically the power slide, and you can pretty much just slide faster, further, and aim down sights while sliding. Another trait that the FTL combat rig will offer is supercharge, and basically what it does, it makes enemies drop packs that boost friendly teammates, and you can help out your teammates too by charging up their payload meters faster, which is quite nice, and basically they'll be able to use their super abilities more often. And the last trait is Perception, and basically what Perception does, it enables the HUD to notify the player when an enemy is looking in their direction, which means it'll work in a similar way like Sixth Sense from Black Ops 3. Now moving on to the fourth combat rig, and the fourth one is called the Striker. And basically the Striker is like a support combat rig. It's support focused, and it helps other rigs on your team weaken the enemy team, which sounds pretty fucking neat. And the payloads for the Striker combat rig is the Gravity Vortex gun, and what the Gravity Vortex gun is, it basically launches a gravity distorting projectile and pulls enemies in and does damage to the enemies. But basically it sounds cool in the sense, and it sounds helpful, because I guess you can just pull in like 5 people from like a room that they're camping and just kill them all. And the second payload available to this Striker combat rig is the Micro Turret, which enables you to put down a turret to track down enemies. And the third payload that will be available for the Striker combat rig is Centurion. And what Centurion is basically an augmentation that will destroy enemy projectiles and act as a portable EMP. So it's pretty much just like an EMP. And the traits for the Striker combat rig is pretty much known as Trophy Drone, which is like a trophy system from the past Call of Duties. Relay, which is basically you'll place an equipment, it'll act like a radar, and it'll let players nearby know where the enemy is. And then Harden, and what Harden does is basically it's equipment and drones that have extra health and don't despawn after the player's death. So far, Striker seems to be very useful, especially if you want to help your team out, and I feel like it'll be like a really good class to play. I don't know why, I just have a feeling it will be. And for the fifth combat rig that'll be available in Infinite Warfare is the Phantom. And this is pretty much for all you snipers out there. The Phantom is the sniper or stealth combat rig in the game. And it's basically that for players that want to snipe and avoid detection. And the payloads available to the Phantom combat rig is the Ballista EM3, and basically what the Ballista EM3 is a high-powered projectile launcher that can pierce enemies and pin multiple enemies to the walls, which sounds pretty fucking cool in my opinion. And then the second payload is the Pulsar, and what Pulsar is basically advanced radar that tracks enemies down on players' HUDs. So it's like an advanced UAV if you want to put it that way. And the third payload for the class is active camo. I mean, it's the same thing from Black Ops 3, player turns invisible. And the traits available to the Phantom combat rig seem pretty cool in a sense. I mean, one of them's called Mark Target, and what Mark Target does, it enables you to do damage to an enemy and prevents them from regenerating health for 5 seconds. And 5 seconds is kind of like a long time in my opinion. And heightened senses is pretty much like awareness from Black Ops 3. And you can basically sound horror while zooming in with the sniper rifle. Like, it basically allows you to hear people's footsteps louder while you're zooming in with the sniper, which is kind of like useful for snipers, I guess. I don't really snipe myself, but you know, I've done it, and I feel like it would be really useful. And the last trait for the Phantom combat rig is the rear guard. For all you snipers that hate getting shot in the back, it's basically a shield on your back that will mitigate some damage from anyone who's shooting you in the back. So it will kind of enable snipers to basically react to anyone who's shooting them in the back. And the very last combat rig that will be available in Infinite Warfare is the Synaptic, which is pretty much like the robot from BO3. It is a fucking robot. The Synaptic combat rig pretty much caters to players who love extreme close quarters, so I guess I'll end up using this, of course, all day, every day. And it tends to favor players that love close quarters weapons, and which sounds quite nice, honestly. I mean, I'll probably end up using this class. And the payloads available to it is the Equalizer, which is dual wield to suppress machine guns, which sounds pretty fucking badass. The Reaper, which basically gets on all 4 legs and increased movement and pretty much one hit melee someone. And the last payload available to the Synaptic is Rewind. And with Rewind, you'll be able to rewind to your last position. And basically you'll have all your health and ammunition intact, which sounds really nice. One of the traits available with this combat rig is Combat Burst, and what Combat Burst does, it basically, every kill you get, it will boost your movement speed, which sounds really fucking nice. And another trait that you'll have with this combat rig is Rushdown, and what Rushdown does, it basically allows your jetpack to recharge faster and damage enemies from below its blast. So basically with the blast of the jetpack, you'll be able to do some damage to people. And the final trait that will be available with this combat rig is Propulsion. And what Propulsion does, it basically allows the player to dash horizontally, which will have its uses in many situations, and you can also get out of like situations and avoid death by dashing horizontally onto like cover or something, which is something I would do in my, like that's something I would totally do, dash into cover and reload and then kill the entire team. However, all 6 of these combat rigs seem pretty fucking cool. I'm pretty hyped for this game, to be honest. I mean, I know a lot of people aren't, but I don't think it's going to be a bad game. It looks decent, and I just hope that they balance these combat rigs out, all 6 of them, because some of them did look a bit sketchy to me, but I don't know. I never played the beta, never even played the game, so I would have to wait to see until like the beta comes out in October, and hopefully they have that well balanced and situated already. But anyways guys, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that like button, comment, favorite, subscribe. You guys are awesome. I love y'all. And I'll see you on my next video. Peace.
Shut out.
Good job, CDP. Mission reassignments inbound.
What? It's over? Already? Damn, I got in tougher fights as a kid.